Hey folks, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Steven. I go by the screen name Bracket Racer on pretty much all the Pinewood Derby forums. I've had two sons go through the scouting program. One's an Eagle, one's a Life, working on Eagle right now. We did a lot of Pinewood Derby racing. I also did some adult league racing. Kind of backed away from that a little bit. I've got other hobbies that are taking up too much time right now. Might get back to it shortly. I still have my track and all the toys and whatever. One of the things I made for the scout racing was this Runout gauge tool. Our district does not allow modifying the wheels, so we needed a way to separate out the good wheels from the bad wheels and something that would be easy for the scouts to use. So this is my first design tool. I've been selling it for several years now. I don't usually keep them in stock. They're made to order. Somebody calls me up and says they need one. We can get it whatever color they want, you know, and customize it however. Basically all you do is you drop a machine spacer on over a pin, drop the wheel on, and you rotate the wheel and you can see how much runout there is. Now this is the stock unmodified wheel and it's showing give or take 6,000ths of runout. You will see wheels come off with way over 10, 12 thousandths of runout, and you'll see wheels come out that are somewhere between maybe 1 and 2 thousandths. Obviously you want the better ones if you're not going to be able to modify the wheels. If you are able to modify the wheels, like this one here, this is a flat-sided 2-gram wheel. You can check those too after you're done cutting them, and you usually won't see a whole lot of runout. If you don't have the right size pin gauge in there, you will see a little bit of play, which I'm just doing this as a demo. I'm not putting the right size pin in. But you have to size the pin to the wheel bore. So I provide the tool usually with 5 of these pin gauges. I round over the tip so that you don't damage the wheels. These pin gauges as delivered are super sharp, so by rounding it off you prevent damage to the wheel bore. The wheel boards are pretty fragile, so you don't want to force a pin in there and damage the wheel bore. It makes the wheel pretty much junk. So this gauge was kind of unique because besides checking for concentricity, if you take this loose, pull that gauge out, and you rotate this up, and just snug that up. You don't have to crank these screws down. They don't need to be that tight. Take the rounded end, face it towards the gauge. Leave it sticking out about that far. And just snug that back up. Put the spacer back on. This is a machine spacer, so I'm sure I've got a good square edge to ride against. You pull that out of the way, and if you just, hopefully I didn't put that out too far. Just hook this back on here, slide that over the pin. Make sure the pin comes out the other side of the wheel just barely, and you'll be in good shape. But by doing this, you can get that back on camera. You can also check for lateral runout. I don't know that lateral runout is as critical, but obviously less is better. If it's 3/4 thousandths of lateral, you're probably okay. This one's looking quite a bit more than that. If you size it right though, and again, if you don't have the right size pin in there, you're going to get a funky reading. So you want to make sure that you use the correct size pin for the wheel. Like this one I can see is a little loose. It's going to show pretty high too, I think. Or maybe not. But that's a little loose on there. If I wiggle that, you can see how far it's moving. But that's just the play on the bore. The gauge itself has got a spring tension that keeps a little bit of pressure on the wheel. But anyway, by using this tool, you get the idea. You can check both sizes. Like I say, I normally supply it with 5 different pin gauges from 96 to 98 in 1/2 thousandth increments. I use this particular gauge for outlaw wheels also for the bearing wheels. So I have either the small bearing or large bearing pins that I use for some of the cars I build. This is my own personal gauge here that I'm showing. And I originally set it up with just a little pocket to store that spacer in. It works okay if it's sitting on a bench. If you're going to be moving it around in a toolbox, you might want to do something else with that. I personally use one of the cheap, that won't fit on camera, sorry, like the Apache 2800 cases from Harbor Freight. You can get those on the coupon sale for like $8, $9. And it's foam padded, so you can put your gauge in there and all your accessories. and that works pretty good. So I've been selling this tool for years. I've had some user requests to make some changes. Some guys want more spacers. They want thicker or thinner spacers to adjust the wheel up and down. Some of the league racers, they want to be able to check either just the inner edge or just the outer edge of the tread, depending on which way the wheel is going to ride on their car for a front wheel, back wheel. So instead of making a bunch of different spacers and doing all that, I thought maybe it's time for a redesign on the gauge. So what I did, so based on user feedback, I came up with this idea. This adds a few things the original didn't have. It has more storage for pins. I labeled them between 96 thousandths and 99.5 thousandths to store your pins. There's also 2 larger pockets if you have a different size pin. If you have the like Revel Chinese wheels with a slightly smaller bore, you might need a 95 pin, or if you are messing with bearing wheels, you might need either the 155 or 187 size pins. So those can be stored in the base. It's also got a notch to drop the spacer into, so you can store the spacer in the base. Close that up, and then the other thing that it does, for the guys that wanted to make it adjustable, the end of this actually will slide up and down. There are 2 screws recessed into here, so you basically adjust it up where you want it, and you can lock it in place. So you can check either the inner edge or the outer edge, and it fits whether there's a modified wheel that has the super short hubs or whether it's a stock wheel where the hub does stick out. So you can align it up and get it exactly where you want it using the smaller tip. I'm sourcing these hopefully from now on with this 50 thou scale, half thousandth resolution gauges. I have sourced a couple of gauges over the years. I get these from McMaster Car now. They're not super expensive, but that half thou resolution really gives you a lot better reading on there. Some of the gauges, I was buying these 100 thousandths scales, and the gauge only reads, the marks are 1,000th apart. You can see the needle, float between, but the better resolution here I think is the way to go. Some guys have asked me to source these with digital gauges. Unless you're buying a very expensive digital gauge, you're looking at a half thou resolution at best. So it'll read a half thou or 1 thou, but it won't show you where it is in between. Whereas these analog gauges, you can see it as the needle floats in between. You'll know if it's, a quarter thou in between or however it is. So you can really get an idea how good it is. I think that's a better way to go myself. If a customer wants a digital gauge, absolutely we can get one of those and put it in there. If somebody wants more pins, I think 96 to 98 covers the majority of the wheels. If you're checking wheels that have been polished, I understand they could be a little bit bigger. But at that point, I would hope that the wheel's already been checked for concentricity before it's polished. If you want to check it afterwards, though, do be careful with these pins, putting them in there, that you don't damage that polished bore. So just be gentle with those. But it still has the onboard storage for the Allen wrench. Keeps it all together. I think it's probably a better way to go. I don't know that it'd be worth upgrading to anybody that doesn't already have it like this. If somebody does already have my existing gauge and they want to change it to this, the gauge is the same size, pins are the same size. Spacer probably needs to be a touch shorter than the original just because of the added movement of the space here. And we can work out a deal on that. If you have your own gauge or your own pins that you want to use, I can supply the gauge without pins or without a gauge or however you need it that way, so you can use your own gear. But definitely, shoot me a message. We can discuss your needs and hopefully get you taken care of. If you have any questions, just give me a message and I'll reply as soon as I can. Thanks.